There's a book that claims the universe is listening, not watching, not judging, just listening. Like a cosmic Amazon Alexa, only with a delivery service for happiness, success, and waterfront property. It's called The Secret, a title that's somehow mysterious and meaningless at the same time. Much like the contents, it was released in 2006 and quickly became the spiritual equivalent of an infomercial. Except instead of selling knives, it sold the idea that your thoughts are a magnetic force. Think about money, and money comes. Think about illness, and your immune system reads your mind and promptly folds. Think about rain, and apparently the sky checks in with your vibe. It was a publishing phenomenon. It topped bestseller charts. It made Oprah cry. It inspired a generation of vision boards, gratitude journals, and grown adults whispering intentions into their smoothies. And all of it, every last chapter, was based on something called the law of attraction, a concept so scientifically robust that it was entirely absent from science. But The Secret didn't need evidence. It had testimonials, people who asked for parking spots and got them, people who imagined checks in the mail and received them, people who thought positive thoughts and found inner peace, external wealth, and presumably a favorable mortgage rate. Now, to be fair, there's nothing wrong with optimism. There's nothing wrong with goals, visualization, or even a bit of magical thinking to get through the day. But The Secret wasn't selling inspiration. It was selling causality. It told readers that they didn't influence reality. They created it. That illness was a reflection of your energy. That poverty was a frequency mismatch. That victims had attracted it. It wasn't just pseudoscience. It was pseudo-morality. And behind it all stood a perfectly lit, softly smiling chorus of New Age narrators, telling you that if you don't have what you want, you simply haven't asked the universe nicely enough. So today, we open The Secret, a book that promises infinite power to anyone willing to suspend doubt, logic, and accountability. Before we condemn The Secret, we should at least acknowledge one thing. It worked. Not in the sense that it revealed truth, cured illness, or summoned Lamborghinis, but in the sense that it sold. It sold by the truckload. Books, DVDs, audiobooks, wall calendars. At one point, it outsold the Bible in airport kiosks. Which makes sense, really. Moses had tablets. This one came with a DVD bonus feature. So what made The Secret so irresistible? The short answer is that it didn't offer you power. It flattered you into believing you already had it. You didn't need credentials, training, ethics, or even a coherent worldview. You just had to believe, strongly, repeatedly, and preferably in the mirror. This wasn't self-help. This was self-worship, gently lit and tastefully typeset. The book was smartly constructed, not with evidence, but with echoes. Every page seemed to confirm what you already suspected, that the universe has been waiting for you, your dreams, your intentions, your Pinterest board. It's seductive because it doesn't ask you to change. It asks you to imagine you've already changed, to act as if you're already rich, already healed, already fulfilled. And if none of that happens, well, clearly, you weren't vibrating correctly. Try again, but this time, light a candle and visualize harder. The real genius of The Secret isn't in its law of attraction. It's in its immunity to falsification. If it works, you're powerful. If it doesn't, you're doing it wrong. Either way, the fault is yours, never the doctrine's. It was spirituality with a money-back guarantee. Only without the money-back bit. And it didn't hurt that it looked the part. Elegant typography, ancient scroll visuals, quotes framed like scripture. a soft glow on every page, as if God himself approved the layout in Photoshop. It was more than a book. It was a performance. An infomercial for your inner potential, directed by a marketing team with delusions of divinity. And, let's be honest, it felt good. To believe that you are the center of cosmic attention, that your thoughts matter. That success is not only within reach, but literally calling your name through quantum vibrations. It's a fantasy, but not just any fantasy. A bespoke one, tailored for a culture raised on fast food, fast fixes, and "you deserve this" advertising. It's seduction by affirmation. And it worked. Not because it was true, but because it was pleasant. And that, in the end, may be The Secret's most dangerous idea of all. One of the greatest tricks The Secret ever pulled was to convince the reader that it was not a book at all, but a revelation. A whisper from the universe, dressed in sepia tones and soft gradients. It promised not information, but illumination. The cover alone looked ancient, mystical, and vaguely apocalyptic, like a lost scroll recently discovered in a crystal cave behind Oprah's garage. Everything from the red wax seal to the golden spiral suggested importance, urgency, destiny. And once opened, it delivered. Not substance, but the seductive illusion of substance. It quoted Emerson, Einstein, Buddha, and anyone else who sounded profound when taken out of context. There was no real structure, only a looping melody of encouragement. You are powerful. You are magnetic. You are a walking miracle wrapped in good intentions. It read less like philosophy and more like a fortune cookie on performance-enhancing drugs. Every page invited you to stop questioning and start visualizing. Stop analyzing. Start receiving. And people did. They made dream boards. They made mantras. They made very confident social media posts about how the universe was working for them. It all felt exciting, as if the reader had found a cheat code to life. No more grinding, no more doubt. Just think, believe, receive. Preferably while sitting in a candlelit room filled with motivational typography. But beneath the glittering surface, the illusion had cracks. It never clearly defined how the so-called law of attraction actually worked. Was it quantum physics? Was it spirituality? Was it a magical vending machine? Sometimes the universe was spoken of as an impersonal force. At other times, as a kind of concierge. 1 minute, it responded to your energy. The next, it required you to place a cosmic order like it was Amazon Prime. But rather than explain, the book distracted. It flooded the reader with testimonials. People who visualized checks and mysteriously received them. People who beat cancer with thoughts. People who manifested jewelry, parking spaces, and ideal partners. It was a spiritual variety show. And like most variety shows, the magic was mostly editing. The failures were omitted. The doubts were blamed on the doubters. And the viewer, now the reader, was gently nudged into complicity. It is important to understand that this illusion worked because it felt empowering. It turned powerlessness into choice. It offered control in a chaotic world, wrapped in Pinterest aesthetics. If you were lonely, it promised love. If you were broke, it promised abundance. If you were sick, it promised healing. It was soothing and completely unverifiable. Even the experts featured in the book and documentary were mostly entrepreneurs, motivational speakers, or authors of adjacent nonsense. Few had any background in science, philosophy, or medicine, but they spoke with the confidence of people who had never been interrupted, and they always smiled, as if they knew something you didn't, something big. This performance of certainty was crucial. It gave the illusion intellectual weight. After all, If so many people are saying the same thing, it must be true, especially if they say it while sitting on velvet cushions and using phrases like vibrational alignment. This was not education. It was enchantment. The book did not want you to learn. It wanted you to believe. And belief, as any magician knows, is half the trick. The other half is distraction. While you were imagining your new car, you did not question the method. While you were vision boarding, you did not ask where the studies were. While you were busy raising your frequency, you did not notice that none of it actually worked. Not in any measurable, repeatable, or rational sense. It only worked in stories. And stories, as we know, are not reality. They are reflections of desire, which is why The Secret did not sell itself on truth. It sold itself on dreams. But there is a cost to living in dreams. Eventually, the alarm clock rings. The vision board fades, and the reader is left wondering why nothing changed. The illusion was beautiful. But like all illusions, it required effort to maintain. Doubt had to be silenced. Failure had to be reframed. Reality had to be massaged until it looked like belief. And if the cracks became too wide, well, that just meant you needed to believe harder. It is all fun and games until someone blames a car crash on low vibrations. Until someone tells a cancer patient that their thoughts must have been too negative. Until someone loses their home, then gets told they simply did not visualize hard enough. This is the moment where The Secret stops being quirky, where the affirmations become accusations, where the positive thinking turns into spiritual gaslighting. Because when everything good in your life is credited to your thoughts, everything bad becomes your fault. Quietly, implied, smilingly. You did not get the job? That is your energy. Your child got sick? You attracted that. You got scammed? Perhaps your mindset needed realignment. The universe, after all, gives you what you are in tune with. It is a neat trick. You promise people power and then hold them responsible for every shortfall. They do not question the system, they question themselves, which makes them even more desperate to believe. The Secret never truly explains what happens when 1,000 people all visualize the same promotion, when they all picture the same parking space, when they all vibrate at the same frequency, but there is still only one winner. Instead, it tells each one they are uniquely deserving. And if they fail, it is an inner issue, not a flaw in the logic. The word accountability gets thrown around often in self-help circles. But in The Secret, accountability is not about moral conduct or responsibility to others. It is about owning your failures as metaphysical errors. It is about guilt with glitter on top. There is also a quiet cruelty to the way the book handles suffering. If you are poor, you are out of alignment. If you are sick, you are energetically confused. If your partner leaves you, you must have attracted abandonment. It is a theology of blame, wrapped in satin. There is no room for structural inequality, no place for bad luck, no acknowledgement of random tragedy. There is only the smile, the mirror, and the message that it is all, somehow, your fault. Even traditional religion, at least, gave people a devil. The Secret gives them only themselves. You are the creator and the destroyer. And if your life is not what you wanted, then clearly your thinking is defective. This becomes particularly dangerous when applied to illness. The Secret suggests that diseases are a result of negative thought patterns. That healing is simply a matter of shifting your frequency, which, to be clear, is not just medically unsound. It is morally grotesque. There are people who have fought terminal illnesses with every resource they had. Science, faith, love, community. And yet, The Secret implies they just did not imagine hard enough. that their failure was not physical, but spiritual. This is not harmless optimism. It is a worldview that mistakes convenience for truth, a philosophy that only works when things go well and becomes cruel when they do not. It encourages people to ignore red flags in relationships, to visualize away debt instead of budgeting, to treat bankruptcy with a vision board, to manifest instead of plan. It is a doctrine of delusion, sold as empowerment. And worst of all, it is sticky, because no one wants to believe they have been lied to, especially when the lie feels better than reality. Once you have built your identity on the idea that your thoughts shape your world, any evidence to the contrary becomes an existential threat. So you double down. You blame the critics. You avoid the news. You retreat deeper into the spell. And the secret smiles, softly, because it knows it never needed to prove anything. It only needed to feel better than doubt. Just when the glitter is losing its shine, the secret performs its slickest trick. It shifts. No longer about Lamborghinis or miracle cures, it pivots toward the abstract. Now, it's about alignment, resonance, intention. Suddenly, the blame game of Chapter 3 is softened by a spiritual balm. It's not your fault you're broke, it's just that your energy was out of tune. Like someone forgiving your parking fine by telling you Mercury was in retrograde. This pivot serves two purposes. First, it keeps the blame close enough to feel personal, but far enough to feel mystical. Second, it allows the brand to escape responsibility. If someone follows the steps and still ends up depressed, bankrupt, or unhealed, well, maybe they just didn't do it right. The universe can't be sued. What makes this clever is how it smuggles in real ideas from real philosophy. Take the Stoics. Marcus Aurelius might say, "The impediment to action advances action," meaning that hardship can shape you. The secret repackages this without the struggle. Instead of wrestling with fate, it teaches you to smooth talk it. It's not wisdom, it's wisdom. And so we arrive at one of the great philosophical problems in modern life: the merger of personal development with spiritual consumerism. This is where yoga mats meet hedge funds, where mindfulness apps are coded by burnout survivors in Silicon Valley, where a brand sells stillness in 10 monthly installments. The secret thrives in this junction. It becomes less about the law of attraction and more about the vibe of aspiration. Want peace? Don't seek therapy. Just burn a candle, post a quote, and let the algorithm fill the void. The result is spiritual theater. You look like you're transforming, but mostly you're rebranding. This explains why so many testimonials sound like Instagram bios. Healed my trauma, quit my job, and found my soul. There's no mention of the 3-day panic attack between bullet points. No admission that real change is slow, unfiltered, and often silent. That wouldn't sell. Instead, the secret pivots toward the middle ground. It flirts with realism. It talks about the frequency of gratitude and vibrations of action. It creates a new flavor of placebo, one that tastes like work but digests like fantasy. In fairness, this pivot isn't entirely useless. For some, it's a stepping stone. They start with a glittery promise and slowly land on something sturdier. They learn that visualizing a healthy life isn't wrong. It's just incomplete. Action must follow. Vision boards need nails. A few might even graduate. They drop the language of magic and pick up the grammar of effort. They no longer script their lives. They just show up. That's not a bad place to end up. But it's not where the secret wants them. The book is not a journey, it's a product. If you grow out of it, you stop buying. So the pivot must be just enough to seem profound, but not enough to make it obsolete. It must feel like revelation, but function like retention. In doing so, the secret stops being a philosophy and becomes a business model. It sells delayed disappointment dressed as divine timing. It teaches faith, not in yourself, but in your own failure to think positively enough. And when it doesn't work, it quietly asks you to read it again. Not for wisdom, for compliance. The final trick of The Secret is that it never really ends. Like all effective belief systems, it leaves the door open. If it hasn't worked for you yet, that's not failure, that's just process. You're still aligning, still attracting, still on the journey. The finish line is always one good thought away, or one book, or one deluxe affirmation journal with a rose gold pen. This is where the self-help genre becomes something closer to reincarnation. Each cycle sells the illusion of rebirth, but you always come back as yourself, just with less money and a slightly better quote collection. You didn't fail to manifest. You simply need to realign your mindset. Maybe even upgrade to the audiobook, or try the app. There's something eerily religious about this. Not in the fire and brimstone sense, but in the quiet dogma of repetition. The Secret has its own saints, sinners, rituals, and relics. The vision board is your altar. Gratitude is your daily prayer. Doubt is the devil. And the Holy Trinity? Thoughts, feelings, and vibrations. But unlike most religions, The Secret is careful not to promise too much after death. It isn't concerned with the soul, only the psyche. The afterlife it sells is now. It promises transcendence through your bank balance, your waistline, your mood board. It tells you that heaven can be bought in 5 easy payments. And if it doesn't arrive, check your frequency. The irony is that many who buy into The Secret do find a kind of peace. Not because the universe is listening, but because they stop shouting, they slow down, they focus, they journal, and maybe for the first time they stop looking outward for answers. That isn't magic, that's mindfulness, and it predates Rhonda Byrne by a couple thousand years. Still, the system wants them back. You don't build a global brand on gratitude and silence. You need yearning. You need testimonials. You need relapse. You need them to believe they almost had it. If only they'd tried a bit harder. If only they'd believed a bit louder. This is the unspoken machinery behind The Secret's longevity. It promises results, but monetizes delay. It preaches responsibility, but thrives on self-doubt. It says you are powerful, but only if you agree to never question the book. It is the ultimate passive-aggressive guru. It smiles, hugs you, and whispers, "Try again, but better." And when the book runs out, the brand continues. Now there are calendars, podcasts, guided meditations, merch, a lifestyle. The Secret is no longer a philosophy, it's a vibe. It lives in hashtags, in Etsy storefronts, in Pinterest boards full of marble counters and string lights. It's not a belief system anymore. It's interior decor for the soul. What remains is the illusion of progress. Every vision board update feels like momentum. Every affirmation sounds like motion. But mostly, it's stasis. Glossy, perfumed, hashtagged stasis. And yet, to critique it too harshly is to risk missing the point. Some people aren't looking for Play-Doh. They're looking for something, anything, that makes life feel less chaotic. If a glittery paperback does that, is it really so terrible? Maybe not. As long as we acknowledge what it is. Not revelation, not science, not ancient wisdom rebottled, but a glossy encouragement machine, a placebo in hardcover. The danger lies only in forgetting that, in thinking that positive thoughts can do more than they ever promised, that gratitude can pay the rent, that the universe is taking notes. The Secret doesn't want to harm you, but it does want to keep you buying, and that is what we're left with. Not evil, not wisdom, just branding. Branding in its purest form. A spiritual sugar pill with an Instagram filter. And the more we understand that, the more we can smile at it, gently, place it back on the shelf, and walk away.